Good morning and welcome to our 10:45 service. And yes, it is actually 10:45. It is not 11:45 right now, daylight savings time. We spring forward. So did I do that right? Maybe I got that backwards. Anyway, we are so thrilled that you're with us this morning. We are in week 3 of the Blessed Life series, and Dave Wilson is here today giving the message. So we've got a great day planned. We're going to kick it off with some amazing worship in just a minute. So grab a coffee, settle in, and we're going to get rolling in just a second.
I needed rescue. My sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan. Now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, come on now, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. Hey, hey, come on, here we go. Woo! I ran out of that grave. Oh, what a glorious day. Hey. Alone in my sorrow and dead in my sin, lost without hope with no place to begin. Your love made a way to let mercy come in. When death was arrested and my life began, ash was redeemed, only beauty remains. My orphan heart was given a name. My mourning grew quiet, my feet rose to dance. When death was arrested and my life began. Sing, oh, your grace, so free, washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. Released from my chains, I'm a prisoner no more. My shame was a ransom he faithfully bore. He canceled my debt and he called me his friend. Oh, when death was arrested and my life began, oh, we sang your grace so free, washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. Oh, it's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Oh, a Savior displayed on a criminal's cross. Darkness rejoices though heaven had lost. But then Jesus arose with all freedom in hand. That's where death was arrested and my life began. water. Oh, we're free, free, forever we're free. Come join the song of all the redeemed. Yes, we're free, free, forever, amen. When death was arrested and my life began. Oh, we're free, free, forever we're free. Come join the song of all the redeemed. Oh, we're free, free, forever, amen. When death was arrested and my life began. When death and my life began. That's when death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new. It's your endless love. It's your endless love pouring down. Come on, you sing. You have yes, Jesus. Oh, you have made us new. Now life begins with you. We believe it. You have made us new. Now life begins with you. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. If y'all could take a seat, that would be great. Well, good morning. We're seeing the room filled up, and let's be honest, how many of you normally attend the 9 a.m. service? Yes, well, we're glad you made it. Those of you that are 10:45, you're just trying to keep with the schedule and not lose that hour too much. We're glad you're here on this earlier Sunday morning than sometimes we would like, and but glad that you're with us, especially as we're in week 3 of the Blessed Life, and Dave's going to be bringing the message in just a little bit. My name is Ryan Morrill, part of our staff here, and I want to share with you tomorrow night, if you're a parent in the room, we've got a great opportunity for you, whether you have little ones, adolescents, teenagers. We have a special thing taking place downtown Lake Orion called PhD Night. It's about parenting, it's about the home, and it's about discipleship. And 3 people, myself included, Susan's one of those, Susan Walsh, our campus director, and Justin Warrens, who you'll see on the screen in a little bit. Just gonna be sharing some different aspects about parenting, things we're seeing in the world, offering some hope and some wisdom as well. I'm gonna be talking about some just digital impacts that we're seeing with teens and young people. It's a great night to come on out. You can get a drink, you can get hopefully a babysitter at home, come on out with if you're a couple or a single, whatever it is, come out and enjoy the night. It's from 7 to 8:30. Go to kensingtonchurch.org and just enter PhD in the search window. You'll see it pop up. You can register. We hope to see you there. It's going to be a real cool and intimate experience. So come on out for that. I want to say this to all the women in the room. If you are a working mom, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, whatever it is, I understand that the lack of margin at times makes it really hard to connect. My wife works full-time and is exhausted much of the time. And it's tough sometimes to meet or create new relationships, and sometimes even get more connected here at the church. And so coming up in 2 weeks, we have a working women's event that's gonna take place here on a Saturday morning. I think it's from 9 to 11 a.m. It's a breakfast and a great chance to just connect, get equipped, empowered, and just inspired on lots of levels. So women in the room, we hope you check that out. It's gonna be a quarterly thing we're doing around here, and you can sign up online. I just want to say this too, for those of you that are new in the room, we have out in the lobby, it's called our hub station. Anyone that is checking out this place for the first time, you've been coming for a few weeks and you say, okay, I want to get some more information. Stop by our hub out there, the orange area, people wearing orange shirts. They will answer any question you have, show you anywhere you need to go, and make this big church feel smaller. And the final thing is 5 weeks from today. What's 5 weeks from today? Easter, right? I can't believe it's 5 weeks away. Spring break, 4 weeks. Yes, I am so excited about that as well. But Easter's coming up, and we actually have our online tickets available now. They are free to download. And just want to say, get your tickets and be inviting people to attend this experience with you. We have services on Saturday, services on Sunday. We also have Good Friday as well. It's a great chance, people in your workplace, in your neighborhood, on your kids' sports team, whatever it is. They will pass much of the year, but oftentimes at the holidays, Christmas and Easter, it's a really easy opportunity for them to step into a church or maybe back into the church for the first time in several years. So we're so glad you're here with us. We're going to get going with the rest of the message. What we're going to do now is we're going to stand up, greet a few people around you, but this is it. We're all a little germ crazy right now, right? Yes, we are. So we're not going to shake hands. We're not going to hug. None of those side cheek kisses, none of that stuff. For those of you that just don't like that stuff, you're welcome, right? So just want you to stand up, greet a few people. You can do like the air high five or the elbow and say you're glad you're here. Thanks so much.
All right, I've never heard of the air high five. Did you do it? Yeah, it's a little crazy right now. We get it. I was on a cruise ship a couple weeks ago, and I literally thought, I'm going to be stuck in the ocean for 2 weeks. But we got off, and we're all good. But yeah, it is an interesting time in our world right now, and we're praying for that. And I encourage you to do that as well. And so here we are. We're in week 3 of what's the series called? Anybody know? Wow, pretty good. The Blessed Life. Yeah, it's called The Blessed Life, and it's, we started 2 weeks ago talking about being in that zone. I called it the blessed zone, which often you hear somebody say, oh, I'm blessed, or I'm in the blessed zone. It means they got money, and they're healthy and wealthy and wise, and it could involve some of that. But it's more the blessed zone is when you're trusting God in such a way that he has to show up, or you're doomed. And by the way, I would just say this, man, that's the place you want to live. And I know that's scary. It's like I'm gonna trust him out here on a limb where I don't know if he's gonna come through. That's where you want to live. I'm telling you, it's scary, but when you see him come through in your finances, you see him come through in your life, you see him come through in your relationships, which he does, you're living on the edge. And so today is called the principle of first. It's a concept in the Bible about who or what gets priority or first in your life. Everybody knows this, right? The word priority, we talk about priorities all the time. What's a priority? It's in the word. It's something that comes prior to something else. So if you say God or something else is my first priority, it's I choose him first and then everything else. Make sense? That's a priority. And so we always talk about priorities, but it basically comes down to what or who are you going to choose first? Now think about this. When I thought about that, I thought, okay, have you ever been in a situation, maybe middle school, maybe as a kid, maybe it's happened recently, where there's 2 captains picked, and they separate from the group, and then they get to pick their teams for whatever game or sport it is, and you're standing there, let's say under the basketball, because I remember this in middle school, and you're standing there, and they're going to pick their teams. Now, who do they pick first? They pick the best person for whatever the game is. If it's something mental, they're going to pick the smartest person. If it's athletic, they're going to pick the most. Am I right? Why? Because they want to what? Yeah. And you said that pretty strongly because anybody here want to lose? No, nobody wants to lose. Yeah, I want my life to be terrible. No, we want to win. And so you step back and you go, I'm picking that guy or that girl because she will help me win. Have you ever been picked first? Anybody? Have you ever been picked last? You ever been standing there and they go through everybody and then you're like, I can't. You ever been that person? I was that person. Back in the 90s, we took, and it's a long story, so I'll keep it really short. My ministry of the Detroit Lions, one of the things we did in the off season is we created this program called Pro Challenge, where we would take 5 Detroit Lion players into a local high school and challenge their varsity athletes to different superstars competition just for fun. And we scored it on the scoreboard, played basketball, 3-on-3 football, volleyball, you name it. And then we would give talks in between the events about Christ. So we added the sport thing because instead of just coming in and speaking, we created competition. It was really a great thing. We did this for years. Well, this one year, my brother-in-law, Jim, Ann's older brother, calls me up and says, hey, can you bring Pro Challenge to my son's high school in New Albany, Ohio? It's a suburb of Columbus, really nice, rich suburb of Columbus. Their high school looks like a college. I am not kidding. And I'm like, this would be really fun. So we drove down to Columbus with Luther Ellis, Chris Spielman, William White, Jason Hansen, I can't remember, we had this whole thing, got in my minivan, which every time they get in my minivan, the front wheels would go up. So anyway, I'm sort of kidding, but we got there. And they did it a little different. They were going to do it outside because it was a spring day and it was beautiful weather. So we go out to the football field, and all their athletes are out there warming up. And this one dude who's a receiver on the football team comes up, and he's super cocky. And he goes, so you guys are big Detroit Lions, huh? You think you're going to beat us? You can't beat us. We're good. We're like, and he's like, you guys suck because you're the Detroit Lions. That's what he said. And then he looks at me and Jason Hansen. Now, Jason and I look a lot alike. I don't know if you know this, but probably because we're both small little white guys, and we're standing there, right? And I'm not kidding. Jason told me the other day he was at Costco, and this woman came up to him, not kidding, like a month ago, and goes, hey, I know who you are. And he smiles. He goes, really? She goes, I go to your church. He hates that because I'm so much older than him. He just hates it. So anyway, we're standing there in this field, and this cocky kid comes up to us, and he goes, like, you guys play for the team? I don't think so. And I go, well, I don't, but he does. Yeah, sure. I go, he's our kicker. This guy's legendary. He goes, really? You're the kicker? I don't think so. And I've never seen Jason do this. He goes, you don't think I can kick a football? He goes, yeah. He goes, see that flagpole? And he points at the flagpole 20 yards behind the uprights, which are 40 yards away. We're out in the middle of the field. He goes, I'll kick and hit that flagpole. He goes, yeah, sure. And I go, dude. He goes, put the ball down. So I put it down. And I tilt it just how Jason wants it. He sets it up, and he backs up, and he goes, boom! 65 yards, bam! Hits the flagpole. I've never seen anything like it. But that pole's like that wide. Ding! And he hit it way up, so that thing's flying like 70 yards. And we're all like, woo! And this kid goes, yeah, I was lucky. Right? So here's the end of the story. There's a lot more going on. It was really fun. But then finally he goes, yeah, well, I don't think you guys could beat us in pick up football game before this whole thing starts. And we're going, seriously? He goes, you will not beat us if I pick your quarterback. And Luther, I'll never forget, he's 6'6", 300 pounds. He goes, go ahead, dude, pick anybody you want. Well, he, of course, looks at all these athletes, and then he looks at me and he goes, this old guy right here, that's your quarterback. And they all go, okay. And we killed him. We destroyed him. But I was picked last, and it was like, in that situation, when you're picked last, you're the most, meaningless, unathletic choice ever. Now, here's the thing. When I was thinking about that illustration just this week, this is what hit me. When it comes to life, do you want to win or lose? There's nobody, I think, that wakes up and says, I'm going to lose. I want my life to be horrible. You're not coming to church today hoping to lose. You're coming to church today to hope to learn and do some things in your life so that you win. When I say win, I don't just mean victory on a playing field. I mean happiness and joy and power and peace. And am I right? That's winning. It's like I want my life to matter, and I want to be happy, and I want to do something. So here's the thing. Tell me I'm wrong. We make a choice of who we're going to put in our life to help us win. It's almost as if we're the captain of our life, and God says, make any choice you want. And we look at our options, and underneath that basketball hoop are all these options, and one of them is God. He's standing right there. There's Jesus. Now, what do most of us do? And I know you don't do this, but you have a friend who does this. Just think of your friend. What do our friends usually do when they think, man, I want my life to be happy? What's our first choice often? A spouse or a person that will bring us happiness. Am I right? It's like number one, priority. I'm going to pick her. I'm going to pick him because if I marry them, then I'll be happy. And the singles sitting here right now are thinking, if I just marry anybody, I'm kidding, but I want to get married, and I'll be happy. So let me start with the married folks. How's that working out for you? And I know you're doing, you can't even answer me right now because they're sitting right there, right? So you're like, oh, it's great, but inside you're like, it's not really doing what I thought. But here's what we think, well, I picked the wrong person. If I picked somebody else, and if the married people could tell you single people, they would say this, honestly, is like, it's not marriage. If you think that's going to do it, it's not going to do it. Even if you pick Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, it's not going to do it. All you got to do is watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. Not that I ever watched that show, but I think it's on right now, and I don't think, anyway, you get it, right? It never works out. Now they got Love is Blind, right, where they don't even see each other and they fall in love, and I haven't seen this anyway. I saw the preview, and I'm like, wow, it ends the same way. They hate each other by the end. So it isn't like, well, that's my first pick. So what else? We pick another person or another thing. It's like, if I have this job with this amount of money and I can live in this city, anywhere but Detroit, if I can live there, then I'll be, right? That's what we do. We literally, the captain of our life, we want to win, we want to be happy, and we make these choices. And I'm telling you, you know I'm speaking the truth. We choose all kinds of things before God. And then at the very end, we like, oh, there's Jesus there. I need him in my life too. If I just add a little God to my life, then all this pain and suffering and unhappiness, he'll make it all good. So we add him in like pick number 10 or pick number 6, and we throw him in. And then what happens? It doesn't go the way we thought. And guess what we do? We throw him out. We say, well, God didn't do anything. Church doesn't do anything. The Bible's full of contradictions. I don't even believe it anymore. We kick him out thinking, well, God doesn't help. And I'm here to tell you, today is critical. Not just about finances, because we're talking about money as among other things. It's critical to understand. The priority of first in your life is everything. Do you hear what I'm saying? Who you or what you put first prior in your life literally determines the happiness of your life. I would say it this way. Where did I put it? Here it is. When God is first in your life, everything comes into order. When God is first in your life, everything comes into order. Now, you guys know, as I said 2 weeks ago, we're sort of lip syncing this series from a book called The Blessed Life from Robert Morrison. This is one of his phrases. When God is first in your life, everything comes into order. Now, let me tell you something. That does not mean everything's perfect. That does not mean you don't have troubles. Jesus said, in this world, you'll have troubles. So life will be difficult. You'll have troubles. Doesn't mean, oh, if I get God in my life, everything will work out. I'll never get sick. I'll always have money. I'll have everything. Doesn't say that. It just says when you put him first in order, everything works out. But the opposite is true. When God is not first, everything is out of order. So here's my question for you. In life, if you want to win, and you go through a valley or a dark time, and some of you are right there right now, let me ask you, do you want your life in order or out of order? You're still going to go through difficult times, whether God's in there or not. Well, if God is first, you're going to go through those difficult times, and there's going to be a peace, and there's going to be a power, and there's going to be a presence that you can't even explain that's real, even though it's really, really difficult. You know what I'm saying? I mean, in the last several months in our life, I can just tell you just a glimpse into our life. Many of you have heard just about a month ago, Ann's mom died. Wonderful woman, and it's actually the right time. She's 90 years old and had dementia for 14 years, so she went to be with the Lord, and we were celebrating. We had an unbelievable funeral. It was just beautiful. All 12 grandsons spoke about their grandmother. It was powerful, and her dad's sitting there and falls asleep during the funeral because he is so sick and so old. He's mentally fine. Physically, now he's been to the hospital 4 times since that funeral with congestive heart failure, and he doesn't have many days left. And so we're running down to Columbus, Ohio. Ann's been down there several times. Now she's watching our grandkids in Denver, and she's going to meet me tonight in Little Rock to do radio this week. So our life's crazy, and all these hard things are going on. But with God in first, the order's right, and so you can still go through this. I mean, as trivial as this sounds, we even had to put our 13-year-old dog, Duke, down, our golden retriever, just a few weeks ago. And that's trivial, right? But it's hard. I walked in my house yesterday. I'm like, Dookie, there's nobody there. In fact, it was interesting. I've never shared this. A few weeks ago on Saturday night, Ann was laying on the floor with Duke, and he's 13 and he's getting old, and she felt something like really hard in his abdomen. She goes, I think I'm gonna have to take him in tomorrow morning. So I come over here to preach. And the second service, this service, I set up a video toward the end of my message. I go down, I sit right there, and I open my phone, and there's a text from Ann that says, he's full of cancer. We have to put him down today before we go to Little Rock tonight. And so I get this text, and I just start crying. Not sobbing, but just, because I love this guy, and it's the worst news ever. This lady's sitting beside me, and she just leans over, and she goes, hey, haven't you already seen this video before? And I didn't want to say, I just found out my dog just said, yeah, it's a real emotional video, But it was like, And I've spent the last 2 days in a hospital with a really close friend whose 37-year-old daughter is fighting for her life. Fighting for her life. And all I can tell you, even in that hospital room and in my life and hopefully in your life, when God is first in the order of things, you can get through those dark moments. As hard as it is in that hospital room right this second, They would normally be sitting here right now, but they have to be there. I sense a peace and a power and even a comfort and knowing that God is in control because God is first in their life. When he's first, the order works. When he isn't, you'll go through the same stuff and it'll destroy you because who you put first determines everything. Now, here's where we're going to go today. We're going to take that idea and show you how that works in our time and in our talents and in our treasure, our money. And I know, I said it first week, when you start adding the word money, everybody goes, oh, remember I said you clench? Yeah, anyway, you know what I mean, your sphincter gets tight. Anyway, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. And some of you is like, why did I come to church today of all topics? But here's what's amazing. When you think about putting God first, here's a phrase I just want you to just remember. It's in the New Testament where Paul wrote this. He said, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. Look at that. It says, the earth is the Lord's. Who's the owner of everything? God. Everything. I highlighted the Lord is the owner of everything. He's the master. He's in control. Everything you see, touch, smell, everything in the earth is his. It's not yours. It's not mine. It's his. And most of us hear that and go, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's easy. But then when we go to our life, you ever do this? You get something in your hand and all of a sudden it becomes yours. You ever thought about that? 5 seconds ago, the store owned this, but I bought it, now I got it. Or somebody gave me, the second it goes into my hands, I don't know how this works, but it's a split second. It goes from theirs, even God's, now it's mine. How do you know this? Because when somebody wants it, even to borrow it, isn't there a part of you that goes, what? And you want to go, that's not even yours, dude. Like 5 seconds ago, you didn't even, but now I do. Am I right? Parents, you ever seen that? You hand a kid a candy bar and somebody asks for a piece of candy bar. It's like, that was my candy bar 5 seconds ago, but now we do the same thing, right? We say the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, but yet we live often like when he gives us a blessing, we're going to hold on to that blessing and never give it back to anybody or even back to him. You know, I mentioned a couple weeks ago that there's this phrase that all toddlers learn early. It's what? Mine, right? And I came across this week the toddler property laws. You ever seen this? They're going to pop them up. Look at these. There's 9 of them here. It says, if I like it, it's mine. Is that true? If it's in my hand, it's mine. If I can take it from you, it's mine. If I had it a little while ago, it's mine. If it's mine, it must never appear to be yours in any way. If I'm doing or building something, all the pieces are mine. If it looks like mine, it's mine. If I saw it first, it's mine. If you were playing with something and put it down, it automatically becomes mine. And then there's one last one. Look at number 10. This is hilarious. If it's broken, it's yours. And yet, here's the thing. We laugh at that, but guess what? We don't grow up. We don't outgrow that. That does not go away. There's something in the human DNA that sort of keeps it that way. And yet God says, no, it's all mine. There's only one person in the universe that can say it's mine, and it's him. And yet he says, I give it to you to bless you in the blessed life. And then I ask for a little bit of it back, and we go, mine. And so it comes down to, okay, what am I going to do with the first of what he gives me? Now, let me show you something. You walk through the Bible, it's very interesting. You find this first everywhere. Go back to the book of Exodus, which is the second book in the Bible. It's God is removing or taking his people from slavery into a new life, which is analogous to our old life into a new life. He says, here's how you need to live now that you're not slaves anymore. He says in verse 1 of chapter 13, he said, the Lord said to Moses, consecrate to me every firstborn male. The first offspring of every womb among the Israelites belongs to me, whether human or animal. That sounds like, whoa, God, you're like, he's like, well, it's all mine anyway. I'm just saying, give me the first. And then he clarifies a little bit later in verses 11, 13. It says, after the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites and gives it to you as he promised an oath to you and your ancestors. So he's reminding them, I'm going to bring you into something amazing that I promised you. He said, you are to give over to the Lord the first offspring of every womb. All the firstborn males of your livestock belong to the Lord. Look at this. Redeem with a lamb every firstborn donkey. Look at that last phrase. Redeem with a lamb every firstborn donkey. Now, some of you are sitting there going, what does that mean? You're like me when I go to church with my mom and I'd sit there beside her and the pastor would try to explain this stuff and I walk out and I go, I'm just confused. I have no idea. The Bible's so, you can't understand it. What? Redeem with a lamb the donkey. Okay, What's that mean? Well, there's the internet now where you can type that in and say commentary and it'll explain this stuff, but you don't need the internet, you got me. Okay, so I'm gonna explain it to you. This is unbelievable that you understand this. And again, I never understood the Bible till you start to step back and go, what does this mean? It's actually beautiful. Here's what God's saying. He's saying there are two types of animals, clean and unclean. The lamb represents, guess what? Clean. The donkey represents unclean. Nothing against those animals. They were just considered clean before God, unclean. And he's saying the lamb needs to be consecrated or sacrificed to redeem the unclean donkey. Some of you just in your brain went, wait, that sounds familiar. The clean is sacrificed to redeem the unclean. Sound like anything you've ever heard before? Think about this. I'll pose it this way. Let me ask you a question. When you and I and all humans were born, were we spiritually clean or unclean? The answer is unclean. Every person born is a sinner. I could walk you through all kinds of verses say, for all of sin falls short of the glory of God, Romans 3. And every parent in the room, you're the experts, you know, children are sinners. And guess where they got that from? Their parents. We raise sinnerlings. That's what we raise, right? I was at Cody and Jenna's just the other day, and Bryce, he's just a little over one. He's sitting in his little chair eating, and he's precious. He's not a sinner. He's a Wilson man. He's perfect, right? And then he gets done with his meal, and Jenna's trying to give him more, and he's turning his head, and then he wants out, and he goes, ah! You're like, there it is. I want what I want, and I want it now, and I don't care what anybody else thinks. I'm like, you're a sinner just like everybody else. We all are. We're born that way. Kids come that way. Parents, did you ever have to teach them to be bad? They just know. That's because they're unclean when we're born. Now, let me ask you this. When Jesus was born, was he born spiritually clean or unclean? Clean. He's the only one in history, in the world, that was born with a pure, perfect, sinless soul. So, are you connecting the dots here? Some of you know John the Baptist is baptized and Jesus shows up, and what does John say when he sees Jesus? He says, behold the what? The Lamb of God, who what? Takes away the sin of the world. If you're like me, you read that and like, oh, that's a cute little phrase. No. You got to step back and go, oh, whoa, what did he just do? He connected Jesus to be the lamb that redeems the donkey. Guess who the donkeys are? You and me. Jesus is going to be sacrificed, consecrate to me the first. He is God's first. He is literally God's tithe. Because tithe doesn't mean just tenth, it means the first tenth. He is God's tithe to redeem all of us. That's the gospel. And because he was sacrificed by the Heavenly Father, sacrificed his lamb, Jesus, for your sin, we are what we just sang. We are free. We just sang that. That is not possible without a lamb being consecrated for our forgiveness. And now we sit here today and often don't even understand that's what this means. It all started in the Old Testament with a sacrificial system that led all the way up to Jesus. And then here's what God does. It's so amazing. Because of that, he says that we are to then give him the first of our lives and the first of our time, talent, and even treasures. In fact, I'll give you a quick example. Some of you know that when Israel came into the promised land, they now were going to own this promised land, and they had to take down cities so that it could become theirs. God was giving it to them, but he said, first city you got to take down is what? Jericho. And I don't have time to read you all the verses, but it basically said they're going to walk into Jericho, walk around it 7 times, one day, 7 days in a row. Craziest story you ever heard in your life? Like the city's going to fall down when we walk around. Well, it doesn't fall down until the band shows up. The marching band, you think they're just a halftime show? They're the beast, baby. When the band shows up, when they blow the trumpets, and you walk around, the walls are going to come down and Jericho is going to be yours, and that's how it happened. You think it's crazy? God can do anything. That's how he did it. But here's what a lot of people miss. Here's what he commands them in Joshua 6. He says, all the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron are sacred to the Lord and must go into his treasury. Now, why am I showing you that verse? Because here's what you would think God would say. Give me 10% of all the gold and spoils from Jericho. But he doesn't say give me 10%. He says what? Give me 100%. I know that's why we don't like this whole giving stuff. It's like God really wants all our money. No, he doesn't. Just give me 1/10 of everything. But in this situation, he says, give it all to me. Why? Anybody know why? Because it's the first city. There's going to be many more. And he's testing them to say, will you trust me? Because here's our tendency. Wait. God, you just bless us. And wait, I'm going to hold on to this. I'll give you a little bit, but I need this to live on. God said, trust me in this one. Give me all of it, and I will provide city after city as I give you the land. And they did. Now, that's the principle of honoring the Lord as first. And by the way, I didn't say this first service, but it just hit me. God can never be second. He's not second no matter what. You may say he's first and he isn't first. He's first. No matter what you and I think, he's first. And so the question comes down, will I honor him with my time, talent, and treasures as first priority in my life? Let me take you to another verse in Proverbs. It says, honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits. Again, it doesn't say last fruits or secondary fruits, the first fruits of all your produce. Then your barns will be filled with plenty and your vats will be bursting with wine. Now, let me ask you something. Do you believe that? That is a question you got to answer. If I honor God first, will he take care of me? That's a test of faith. See, here's the whole idea. I can tell you the whole idea of this message in one sentence. It's basically this thought. The reason God says to give him the first 10% of our income is so that we'll trust him with the remaining 90. Do you understand what I'm saying? Pick him first, before the mortgage, before the car payment, before the electric bill. Why? Because it's a statement of faith. I wrote in my notes, giving to God first is a faith choice. Giving to God first is a faith choice. Why? And again, some of you live this way, many don't. But here's the thing. Here's how we normally do it. I get my income, I get my check, I pay all the bills. What's left? I'll choose him. I'll give him what's left. That's how most people do it. Even in America, we're the most blessed people in the world. We give less than 2% of our income to charity. It's just the way it is in every church, and it's just standard. Because giving away money first is a scary thing. That's the blessed life. It's like, I got to step out. You mean I'm going to give it to him before I know if I'm going to have enough left over to pay? He goes, trust me. I will fill your vats to overflowing. You got to trust me, and you'll never know till you do it. But once you do it, you'll be on that blessed life zone of like, I'm not sure what's going to happen. And then he shows up, and you're like, oh my goodness. I got to tell you, 40 years I've been doing this. 40 years, and I've seen God show up in amazing ways over 40 years. And there were times I'd be laying in bed at night, sweating, not sleeping, because I'm worried that I gave 10% of our gross, by the way, to God before I knew if there'd be enough to pay the rest of the bills. And by the way, my wife was just, she didn't even think about it. She's over there sleeping away, and I'm like, college fund. I'm just telling you. I'm just one guy. And I said it last week in that little video if you watched it. But for 40 years now, when Ann and I decided before we got married, it was a decision we made as we were engaged that when we got married, our money would be our money, not his and her money. Our money is God's money, and we're going to begin tithing from day one. And we've done it 40 years, and I'm telling you, you look at me and think, oh, you're a pastor, people took care of you. There were people in our church didn't know, we were in a different ministry, and we didn't tell people. God honored that first priority commitment. I mean, I want us to just sit on the stage for the next hour and tell you story after story, because I could. I won't. But you know what I want more than that? I want you to have these stories. But to do it as the first priority is scary. It's really scary. And yet, it's only going to be somebody else's story until you take that first priority step of faith. And I'm telling you, then you will see. And I just had a guy walk up to me in the lobby and said, dude, it happened this morning. And I'm not going to get into details, but he just said, I didn't have any money, and I trusted God, and I walked out, and there's a voicemail, and God took care of what I just gave times 10 through a sale of something. It's just, he goes, I was scared to put that in the offering today. And he did. And again, I'm not saying that's how it works. You give to get. No, we get to give. We get to give and find out that God really is trustworthy. And so it's interesting. Steve was here last week, and he told you, we are inviting you, I'd say challenging you, but I'd say inviting you to test God. It's only one time in the Bible where God says, test me. You know where it is? Talked about it last week, Malachi 3. He says, test me in this, and it's with our money. Because why? He knows that our money's connected to our heart. I say it this way, it's like a fishing line on our heart to our wallet. When we pull our wallet out, it's like, ugh. You ever feel that? It's like, oh, I'm going to give something away. He knows that, and so he says, test me and see if I don't provide for you. So the tithe test is we're inviting you to join us for 90 days, to commit for 90 days. Some of you are already tithers, and some of you have never done this before. For 90 days, give him 10% of your income. You're going to fill out a thing. There's a card you can get on the way out, or I'd say the best way to do it is just do it on the app. Most people can do it digitally. And then 90 days later, if you don't feel like God provided or took care of you or showed up in powerful ways, tell us. We'll give you all your money back. How good a deal is that? Last time we did this, I think 6 people asked for their money back, and they were going through amazing hardship, and we said, here you go. And so I'm just telling you, you can go on this ride with us, or you can watch it. But if you go on it, I know it's scary, and I know you're clenching right now at the whole thing. But when you do, God shows up in a way that you will have stories to tell. Now, we're going to take our offering right now as I show you a video of Justin Warren's, our Birmingham pastor, just talking about his journey with this whole thing that we've been talking about. Watch this, and then there's a moment for you to give. And again, most people at Kensington don't even give to this pouch, although some do. Many do it this way. That's how I do it, and it's a first priority, so it comes right out of my bank account every month. And I always said, and Ann and I said from the day we got married, we wanted our biggest check that we wrote every month to be to God, not to the mortgage or anything else. And so it's been that way for 40 years, and God has provided in amazing ways for 40 years. So this is a chance for you to say, man, I want to jump in on that, do that. But on the way out, you'll actually get the brochure if you want to jump in and tithe test. So watch this.
My journey with the tithe began later in life. I grew up in a family that didn't talk about faith very much, and so obviously we didn't end up talking about tithing either. And as I started to come to church and experience a life with Jesus, this perspective started to open up for me when it came to my finances and the treasures in my life. And I remember a mentor sitting down with me and opening up his checkbook and his calendar to show me how he lived his life. And it was in that conversation that I wrestled with, how do you spend your money differently when you follow Jesus and you experience his grace and his hope? And it was through that conversation and questions and that friendship that I began to understand the opportunity that God invites us to with this idea of the tithe. And it began to shape the future of my family. So when Jenny and I got married and we started to talk about our faith and our finances, we started to wrestle with this area of how do we live this out, not only for ourselves, but for our kids and for our future. And I remember being so thankful that somebody walked alongside of me so that I would move from a person who was tipping every once in a while and periodically giving to becoming a percentage giver in our community. And one of the things that I noticed as I began to do that is I didn't feel a sense of loss or regret or that I missed out on anything, but rather I started to see my gratitude for life and my gratefulness for the things that we had in our life increase. And so now with our 4 kids, as we talk about living a life of generosity, we've invited them into the very same conversation that we've been having over these years of how do we use our life and our resources for kingdom impact and seeing their lights shine at the moments where they bring their finances to support not only the church, but the movement of God going forward has been one of the greatest joys of my life. And so my invitation to you is whether you've been a person who's been tipping, periodically giving, or you have been a percentage giver, that you would lean into this opportunity of the tithe and see what God not only does in you, but does in your family and for the generations beyond. I believe it's one of the most blessed aspects of our faith and one of the most blessed aspects of my life. And I invite you to join us in it.
You know, it's interesting. Many of you know every year, right around this time of year, we put a financial series in the calendar because we want to not just talk about giving, but talk about debt. and stewardship and a plan and a budget. And by the way, when this series ends in a few weeks, we're going to have another Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University. I encourage you, if you've never done that, it will literally change your life. He even talks about debt, and should you give when you're in debt? And he says, yes, because God will take care of it. It is a powerful, powerful course that you should sign up for. But here's the thing. When my oldest son, CJ, was 11, maybe 12 years old, he walked in my office at home, and I was writing my tithe check. And I'll never forget, he looked over. By the way, you guys know what a check is? It's these things you write. This was back when that's how you did it, right? And so I remember he looked over and he made this comment like, wow, that's a really big number. Dad, I go, this goes to God. This is what we give to God. He goes, and I know what he's thinking. He's like, no wonder I don't get the toys I want. Look, there's where all the money goes. But to him, it was an astronomical number. And it was, like I said, it's going to be bigger than my mortgage. It's going to be the number one check and the first check I write every month. Now it's digital, but it's the first one. And I've always, Ann and I together, like, this should be because he's first. And you can say, and I can say all we want with our mouth, but it's always going to show up two places, who's really first, in our calendar and in our bank account. So CJ was getting a glimpse into the bank account. And I'll never forget, he's like, why? And you know what hit me? There's a passage back in Exodus 13 that's very interesting. Right after he writes, sacrifice the lamb to redeem the donkey. The next verse, let me show you what it says, because this is what was very interesting. He says, and when in time to come your son asks you, what does this mean? So here I am, I'm sitting there, and my son has just asked me, why would you do this? Here's what he says. You shall say to him, by a strong hand, the Lord brought us out of Egypt from the house of slavery. So I'm sitting there with CJ, and he asked me, why would you do this? And I remember, I just looked at him, and I don't think he understood this. I bet you he doesn't remember this conversation. But I just looked at him, and I said, well, here's the thing. Your dad wasn't always a good man. In fact, your dad was a bad man. In fact, your dad was addicted and in bondage to the same things your grandpa was in bondage to. Alcohol, women, money. I was a copy of my dad, even though my dad didn't raise me. But way back in the 10 Commandments, in the book of Exodus, just 7 chapters later, it says the sins of the father will go through the legacy unless somebody stops it. And I was going to continue that legacy. And now I'm literally sitting looking at a son who is the first of my legacy, and he doesn't know God's mighty hand saved your dad. God's mighty work in your dad's life took me from slavery to free. We just sang, I am free. I am free. My son doesn't know that journey. All he knows is what he's got. And I just want to go, everything you're looking at, everything you experience in your life is because God saved your dad, and now a new legacy can start. I didn't do that. He did that. This house isn't ours. It's his. This car isn't ours. It's his. This checkbook isn't ours. Our bank account's not ours. It's his. Now, I wasn't yelling at him because I wasn't that excited, but I just wanted him to know, you don't even know, but I know. And because he did that for me, I want to honor him. It's a privilege to write this check every month. I get excited to write it. Even though it's scary, it's like I get to see again this month how God's going to come through. So, I am not ashamed to say, come on, let's do this. Try it for 90 days. And if God doesn't show up, I'm not kidding. Call us, email us, and say, I want my money back, and no questions asked, money back. But I hope you go on this journey. And I'm telling you, it's not because God needs your money. It's for you to experience the life he has called you to, that we are free. We're going to end today with this amazing song. Where's the band? Get out here, guys. Let's go. We're going to end this thing. Yeah, we start playing the pad, and they'll come. But yeah, I mean, this is a song. We sang it Wednesday night, and I was playing in the band, just tearing up as I thought of these words. Here's what we're going to invite you to sing. And I tell you, singing a song is worship, but living it is real worship. So it's one thing to stand and sing here. It's another thing to then go live it, because here's what we're going to sing. You can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world. That's faith. That's trust. To say, not some of it, you're first. You can have it all. I encourage you. This is what I've done during the song. I just open my hands as I'm singing it and say, okay, God, I'm tempted to, you can have it all. You can have my wife. You can have my kids. You can have my job. You can have my future. You can have my wallet. You can have it all. Every part of my world is yours because you're first anyway. So I put you first, and I'm not just going to sing a song. I'm then going to walk out and live it. Go ahead and stand up. Let me pray for you. Father God, I pray that even as we sing these words, it would be more than a song. It'd be more than lyrics. It would be a commitment of our hearts to individually and corporately say, Jesus, you really can take it all, have it all. I want to honor you first in my life. We trust you to meet us right here, right now. In Jesus' name, amen.
You can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world. Take this life and breathe on this heart that is now yours. When we sing, you can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world. Take this life and breathe on this heart that is now yours. Oh, the joy I found surrendering my crown at the feet of the King who surrendered.
Breaking me, God. Breaking me. You're making me, God, into who you want me to be. Breaking me to bless me, but the breaking is hard. The breaking, it hurts. I feel it. The breaking is taking its toll, and what I'm facing feels out of control, wading in waters that are up to my neck when all that I need is rest for my soul. So I do what makes sense, and I try to control, though I know that I can't because I've tried that before. I've kept my best for me and then the rest for me. My destiny and my legacy simmer, but that's not your recipe, because what was meant for me is different. It's blessed to be. But I can't hold on. I must let go and trust you with what's next for me. It might not feel good at first, and it's harder than any of my words can say. I need to let it all go, because if I'm holding on, I'm not walking in your way. Now I'd be walking on my own, which feels safer, it feels good, where all I see is all I see, and all my things seem as good as they could, even as good as they should. So I'll secure my future, secure my plans. I make it all so that I can understand, because that sounds perfect to me. But if you have one, then I don't want another plan. Now I want your plan. I want your ways. So I put off everything else, and at your feet I will stay. At your feet I bring myself. I bring my soul. I bring my song. I bring all that you have given me. I bring everything I have. I bring it all because it's been yours all along. It's been yours.
There is no greater call than giving you my all. I lay it all down. I lay it all down. There is no greater love, no higher name above. I lay it all down. I lay it all down. There is no greater call than giving you my all. I lay it all down. I lay it all down. There is no greater love, no higher name above. I lay it all down. I lay it all. Let's sing it. Every part of my world, take this life and breathe on. This heart that is now yours. You can have it all. Every part of my world, take this life and breathe on. This heart that is now yours. Come on, as we sing, you can have it all, Lord. You sing. Every part. Come on, tell him. Take this life and oh, this heart that is now yours. You can have it all. You can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world, take this life and breathe on. This heart, this heart.
I was thinking, you know, those folks that rushed out to get to their car, they missed that slam by San Frangione. Yeah, they missed it. He was up all night at the breakaway thing with our breakaway kids, and here he is today blessing us. And we're ending early, so let me just add this last thought. I said this first service in the message, but it just hit me. We're singing that song. I don't know about you, but I love the bottled Coke you get at Costco. Anybody with me? You know, it's like 70s type little bottle, you know. And I'm not kidding. When I get one of those and open it up, and I just want to cherish that moment. My wife, Ann, will be sitting beside me, and she'll go, "Hey, can I have a swig?" And I mean, 5 seconds ago it was in the refrigerator and it was both of ours, but now it's in my hand. It's like, so I look at her and I want to be the pastor and say, "Yeah, of course, it's all yours." I'm like, no, There's one in the fridge. Go get your own. She says, no, I don't want to drink a whole one. I just want a little swig, which am I right means half the bottle. But anyway, I just want a swig. But I've done this. I'm like, well, I'll give you a little bit. There's that much left. Slide it over. So she gets backwash and the last 10%. As you walk out, have this image in your mind. God is saying, that Coke, I gave you. I own it. It's a gift. Why? Because I love you and I want to bless you. I know some of you said Coke's not a blessing from God. Okay, forget. He's blessed you with everything you've got. And we go, I'm going to keep it all to myself, and then the last little bit, I'll throw it at you. Just give him the first swig. Just give him what he deserves. He's first. He's priority. You can say it all day until we actually live it. We'll never experience the blessing in the 90%. That 90% blessed will go a lot farther than 100% not. So I know this is a big challenge, and I know it makes us squirm. I'm inviting you to something I think you'll thank us for in 90 days. I really do. You're going to see God work in a way you may never have before, because it's hard to see him work when we just sing songs. It's a different deal when we live. You can have it all. If you need prayer, if you want to talk to us on the prayer team, our prayer team will be up here. We're in 40 days of prayer right now, going into Easter, and we'd love to pray for you. Have fun in the lobby. We'll see you back here next week for week 4. God bless you. See you.